sense it. Critics that I used to really like, whether they work for something like a big publication or it's a YouTube critic, I've noticed a difference in the way they conduct themselves. I notice a difference in the way that they approach film criticism. It's less, again, from that initial gut reaction, exploring maybe the vulnerability of why you feel something, and it's more attached to just the typical talking points of today, the identity politics, the push for all of these political angles to create a sort of propaganda. And now, because obviously Hollywood is the way it is, and they are mixed up in all of the political elites, and I do think that a lot of the media is involved in that as well. And now more so than ever before, these major publications are pointedly political in the way that they might not have been before, but that also applies to the criticism. You'll notice a lot more discussion of identity politics and such rather than just the film on the basis of merit. And again, as I said, it's very important, I think, to explore all the cultural things about a film, absolutely, but I think that we've tipped a little bit too far over into that. I've talked about it at length on this channel, just about, I don't mind political messages, especially when it's something that you're really passionate about. If you're genuinely a passionate person and you have a real, story to tell that is political in nature, go for it. But now it doesn't feel so much about passion so much as it feels like we need to churn this out in order to get a message out there in a very condescending way. And, I don't care what you believe in. I just don't like that. I don't like being manipulated in that way. Yes, of course, film is manipulation, but there's a difference between manipulation that's working as part of the piece and kind of manipulation that has to do with outside noise. Critics might be like, oh, this is such an important film. It needs to be heard. This is such a harrowing message. And audiences, I'm not saying all the time, but audiences often might think, I don't see what the big deal is about this. It's boring. It feels like I'm in school being lectured. And I've always hated that critics rarely are willing to call out movies like that for their bullshit, for kind of that pretentiousness. They more tend to go along with it. Again, maybe it is the academia in them, maybe it is that kind of status, but it's always rubbed me the wrong way. But especially now, the obsession with important movies has been such a big thing in the Hollywood industry, and especially like the Academy Awards since like 1979 have we seen this push for like historical, serious, deep films. Some brilliant, others, I don't think so much. It does remind me of Hollywood in the 1960s and just how much like a lot of the movies that were really popular, especially with younger audiences, like something like Easy Rider might come out, but the Academy Awards will give the best picture to like My Fair Lady or something, or, they'll give John Wayne an Oscar for True Grit. And it's like, did John Wayne really deserve an Oscar for Best Actor? Probably not. But it's just this clinging to tradition, clinging to what you know, and kind of rejecting the rebellion against that, I suppose. But it's not just film critics that work for big publications and such. It's also some YouTubers that I've seen change over time. And that I find interesting just because you'd think YouTube, it's like we're outsiders. I don't know a lot about YouTubers, other YouTubers, and how they handle themselves because it's, very much an isolated thing. But it's like, I would think they'd be more like the outsiders that provide a different point of view, because they don't work for some big publication. They're not rubbing the shoulders of the elite. Again, at least it seems that way. So you would think that they would be more willing to just be blatant and discuss what they truly feel. And I won't mention any names, but I noticed too, when people get big enough, things change. It's like you might review certain things, but then you get big enough and suddenly you get to meet the filmmakers, whose films you used to review. You get to work with the actors and all that. And suddenly, you change, and the way that you look at their films changes. You prop them up in a way because you're buddies with them. And I've always felt that as a critic, it's a good thing to keep your distance from the industry. And in any type of, like, whether you're a judge, whether you're a critic of any type of art, I think it's good to separate yourself from the creators, from the artists, because knowing them in a personal way, that's going to contribute to the way you write about them, to the way that you discuss them. And I don't think that's necessarily fair criticism. And another thing I notice is a lot of critics on YouTube, they will act very like nervous and they'll excessively compliment something, but it feels almost like they have a gun held to their head because they're very afraid to rub audiences the wrong way, to rub their viewers the wrong way. The more you like something, obviously, the more the algorithm is going to be in your favor, I would think. I don't know, to me, art is purely a feeling, and I feel like critics have absolutely lost that, and they lose it more and more, it seems. It's something that you've got to respond to organically in order for it to really work. And I constantly wrestle naturally with biases. I'm biased all the time. I make mistakes all the time. There are many reviews I've done where, I wish I could take them back. But overall, I really try to be as real and as honest with my opinion about how something made me feel in a pure way. Because art doesn't care whether you're a critic, you're just a person that's experiencing something. And, I've always said that film is, to me, one of the deepest, most vulnerable art forms because it really taps into a lot of those abstract aspects of the subconscious. It's a really beautiful and complex bond, the bond between a viewer and the movie screen.